I'm used to doing stand-up live and having romance with the audience. I'm constantly fighting self-abuse. Drink less, eat less, smoke less. I stop, but I know I really hate myself, my lack of willpower, and what am I going to do?
Rodney Dangerfield is a legend in the comedy world, known for his iconic no-respect shtick. His whole vibe as the eternally put-upon everyman who just couldn't catch a break was something everyone could vibe with. Dangerfield pulled off the impossible. He made being a grumpy, middle-aged dude totally cool and somehow trendy. He took the old-school comedy style from Borscht Belt and vaudeville and turned it into a fresh, modern act full of care one-liners. Those one-liners were his secret sauce. Whether he was cracking jokes like, "I could tell my parents hated me, my bath toys were a toaster and a radio," or, "I worked in a pet store and people kept asking how big I'd get," Dangerfield had this amazing way of turning his self-deprecation into pure comedy gold.
Tell you the truth, my wife and I, we never had now we get undressed, we can't stop laughing, you know?
But here's the thing, that self-deprecating persona wasn't just for laughs. Rodney Dangerfield's on-stage misery was rooted in real-life struggles. His whole act was built on a foundation of genuine pain, proving that comedy really is tragedy plus time. Despite his carefully crafted on-stage persona, Dangerfield's life had more layers than most people realize.
Your real name is not Rodney Dangerfield.
No. I was born Jacob Cohen.
Here's the real scoop on Rodney Dangerfield. Early life Rodney Dangerfield, born Jacob Cohen on November 22, 1921 in Babylon, New York, had a pretty rough start. His parents, Dorothy Dottie Teitelbaum, and vaudeville performer Philip Cohen, stage name Phil Roy, were never really around. His mom was born in Hungary and his dad was MIA most of the time. He'd only pop in a couple of times a year. His dad, Phil Roy, was a vaudeville performer who was mostly not around. Roy bounced right after Rodney was born, leaving his mom to raise him alone. Philip later begged for Rodney's forgiveness before he passed away. Rodney's mom wasn't exactly warm and fuzzy either. She was emotionally distant and didn't show much affection. She was known for making him feel like a total afterthought. There were even stories about her taking money he saved for a football uniform and keeping it for herself. When his dad ditched the family, his mom moved them to Kew Gardens, Queens. Rodney attended Richmond Hill High School and graduated in 1939. The move to Queens didn't make things easier. Dangerfield faced anti-Semitism at school and had to hustle from a young age, selling ice cream and driving a fish truck just to make ends meet. So when Rodney joked about wishing for a different mother, different father, different sister, different everything, he wasn't kidding. As a kid in the 1920s and 1930s, Rodney was often left to fend for himself. Biography mentions that he roamed his neighborhood a lot. On top of that, Rodney revealed in a 2004 Howard Stern interview that he was emmed by a man in his neighborhood as a kid, an experience that was both traumatic and unsettling. One time when he was just 5 years old, a man approached him with a nickel. Dangerfield, thinking he was just getting a treat, ended up sitting on the man's lap while the guy kissed him on the lips for several minutes. To help out, he hustled delivering groceries, selling newspapers, and even dishing out ice cream at the beach. Career. He worked hard, snagging a summer gig in the Catskills, but then hit a professional dead end. In his autobiography, It's Not Easy Being Me, Rodney says he threw in the towel at 28. He was fed up with constant traveling and not really making it big. He got married to singer Joyce Indig, who also gave up her career to start a family. Rodney took a regular job selling aluminum siding and paint, settling into what he called a normal life. According to NBC News, he was so unknown as a comedian that no one even noticed when he quit. But Rodney never stopped writing jokes. Turns out, two people giving up their dreams and starting a family didn't guarantee happiness. As his marriage fell apart, he went back to performing, over 40, and is still not famous. But when he got divorced at 40, he decided to give showbiz another shot.
I was going through a very depressed time at the time. I was about 40 and life was caving in.
In the early 60s, Rodney decided to revive his career as an entertainer. By day, he was still hustling as a salesman. But by night, he was back on stage performing at hotels in the Catskill Mountains. But success was elusive, and he was drowning in about $20,000 of debt. He joked about it later, saying, "I played one club. It was so far out, my act was reviewed in Field & Stream." Rodney knew he needed a K-er image to stand out from the crowd. After getting the cold shoulder from some top comedy clubs, he went back home and started crafting a character where everything always goes wrong. It wasn't smooth sailing right away, but that grind helped him nail his iconic persona, the perpetually unlucky, no respect-getting middle-aged guy. He borrowed the name Rodney Dangerfield from a 1941 Jack Benny radio episode. The name was mentioned as an actor invited to Benny's Christmas party, but Mary Livingstone had never heard of him. The name popped up again in a 1946 episode as a movie star on Jack's Christmas card list, and was even used by Ricky Nelson in a 1962 episode of The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet as a fake name for a blind date. Rodney Dangerfield's unique blend of misery and humor, combined with his iconic persona, eventually made him one of the most beloved comedians of his time.
Well, I came back in show business in the early 40s, and I started doing a character where nothing goes right, and I wasn't saying no respect then, I was just saying nothing goes right, I can't take it no more.
He fine-tuned his jokes to perfection, working for months on just 6 minutes of material. By 1963, he landed an audition for The Ed Sullivan Show and crushed it. Soon he was a regular on Sullivan's Show and popping up on other TV shows too. Persona life.
But now it has become such a part of our lexicon. Even the president.
That's a big word for me. I never went to college,
Many people think comedians are funny because they're super happy, but it's often the opposite. Rodney is a perfect example of this. Despite making everyone laugh with his self-deprecating jokes, he battled depression his entire life and was diagnosed with clinical depression later on. His early life gave him plenty of reasons to be depressed. His dad ditched the family and his mom was cold and unloving. In his later years, Rodney suffered from wild mood swings and sometimes stayed in bed all day, refusing to get out. In his autobiography, It's Not Easy Being Me, he wrote about his worst bout of depression in his 70s. It was a bad one. For 2 years, I couldn't function. He was on a ton of prescriptions, and as his health declined, he ended up taking more than 100 pills a day. Rodney also self-medicated with alcohol and marijuana. He smoked pot every day for 60 years and even wanted to title his autobiography, My Love Affair with Marijuana.
And smoking, that's another one. Try to stop smoking, that's a beauty, huh? Well, with cigarettes, my wife and I, we made a deal, my wife and I. We only smoke after I got the same pack now since 1975.
Hollywood superstars, just like their larger-than-life life, it's not so out of pocket to imagine they have love lives worthy of Hollywood production. When Rodney was pushing 30, his comedy career was going nowhere fast. So when he met singer Joyce Indig, he decided to ditch his dreams and settle down. He was looking for love and craving some normalcy. Joyce gave up her singing career too, and they tied the knot. Their marriage was pretty rocky. Rodney described it as a real mixed-up affair. He became a dad at 39, and they had 2 kids, Brian and Melanie. But things fell apart after Brian was born, and they divorced in 1962 after 13 years together. That wasn't the end, though. They got remarried in 1963 and then divorced again in 1970. Rodney even opened his comedy club, Rodney's, in NYC to be closer to his family and cut down on the crazy travel schedule. With 2 kids and a messy marriage, the constant travel and showbiz pressure were wearing him down. So despite his recent success, he decided to open his own comedy club. He had to borrow $250,000 to make it happen. Rodney's club quickly became a hotspot for up-and-coming comedians trying to make it big. Rodney was known for supporting young talent, and he used his club as the stage for a series of HBO specials that launched the careers of legends like Jerry Seinfeld, Roseanne Barr, and Jim Carrey. The club ran for over 50 years, finally closing in 2020 because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was so iconic, it even made an appearance in the 2019 movie Joker as the spot where Arthur Fleck bombs as a stand-up comic. Despite the huge risk, the club was a massive success, and Rodney paid back his investors within a year and a half. And, as of 2020, there's talk of reopening the legendary venue at a new location. In 1975, Joyce passed away, leaving Rodney to raise their kids solo. Despite his fame, he lived a pretty low-key life with his kids and his best buddy Joe Ansis in his Manhattan apartment. Rodney stayed single for quite a while. Then, in a twist straight out of a rom-com, he walked into a flower shop in Santa Monica in 1983 and met Joan Child. Rodney was in town for a fitness program, and sparks flew, but they didn't rush things. They dated for a decade before tying the knot in 1993. Joan was 41, Rodney was 72. Talk about an age gap. When Rodney was promoting his 2000 film My Five Wives, they even staged a recommitment ceremony to reaffirm their love.
I love the way you've accessorized everything here tonight. I mean, it looks really great. How did you put this outfit together?
Oh, he helped me.
Really?
Right?
Are you your mom's fashion consultant?
I will stop this.
When Rodney passed away in 2004, they had been together for over 20 years. Joan took control of Rodney's estate and intellectual property. According to Reuters, she's not afraid to defend her late husband's legacy, even taking her own stepdaughter to court over footage of Rodney performing. Her lawyer made it clear, all copyrights to Rodney's act are held by Joan, who owns all of her late husband's intellectual property. Rodney was never the poster child for healthy living, heavy smoker for most of his life, often walking around with 3 packs of cigarettes on him. In his autobiography, It's Not Easy Being Me, he admitted that he'd try to quit but would reward himself for a day without smoking by smoking. Add to that a junk food diet and zero exercise, and it's no surprise that Dangerfield's health took a nosedive in his later years. In 2001, as reported by the Spokesman Review, Dangerfield had a mild heart attack while performing on The Tonight Show on his 80th birthday. Jay Leno noticed something was off and called the paramedics right then and there. ABC News reported that Dangerfield needed a heart bypass, but had to undergo brain surgery first to fix his blood flow. He got through that in 2003, but when he went back for heart surgery months later, he had a stroke and slipped into a coma. Incredibly, he woke up from the coma when his wife mentioned an X-rated cartoon he found hilarious. It had the caption, "Surprise Balloon." That got him laughing again. But sadly, he passed away a few weeks later at 82.